Good morning and welcome to Fridays with Fenning. I want to begin today with a question. Have you started doing something new to improve yourself since lockdown started? Have you started running or began a diet or chosen to explore all the footpaths that you never knew existed in your area? Well, on the 18th of September, my son Sam made the decision to start learning another language. So he downloaded the Duolingo app on his phone and he's begun learning Spanish. He's been doing it between 15 and 30 minutes a day for the past 131 days, which I think is pretty impressive. Because you see, me and other languages just don't work. At school, however hard Miss Annas tried to inspire me to learn French or German, it just didn't sink in. So I'm rubbish when going to another country because I just speak English slower and louder, hoping that they'll understand. And that's just in Scotland. Now, I'm amazed at people who can speak fluently in other languages. My cousin Jo married a Frenchman and lives in the south of France, and she's got so used to the French language that she says that she dreams in both French and English, depending on the context and who's in her dreams. Now, you see, dreaming in a second language is quite something, isn't it? Now, everyone has a primary language, and I guess if you're watching this, it's likely to be English. But did you know that everyone has a primary love language too? Yes, love actually has a language. Yeah, are you not sure what I mean? Well, let me explain with a true story. Sarah, my wife, was in the staff room at school a while back, and one of the staff, a lady called Nadine, talked about something that had happened to her the previous day. Now, her partner wasn't feeling well. I think that he had a bad cold or man flu, which is actually quite a serious condition that men get. And so she decided to go round to see him and take him some soup, a kind of a fresh crusty roll, some cold medication and a box of tissues with balm. Now, after doing all of that for him, his response was, well, a bit of sympathy would have been nice. Nadine told this story. All the teachers who were female went, ah! You see, it seems like he's ungrateful. But actually, what's being shown there is that they're not communicating in the same love language. She's showing her love through acts of service and of kindness, and he didn't pick up her love language. And whereas he was looking for love through affirming words of sympathy, and she didn't say that. So do you see the miscommunication? They didn't understand each other and they were operating in two different languages. Now, this gets played out in so many relationships. Your emotional love language and the language of your spouse or partner or child or work colleague may be as different as Chinese is from English. And however hard you try to show love, your love language, it might not be understood in the way that you hoped it would because it's not their love language. This was first identified by a man called Gary Chapman, who had been a marriage counsellor for 30 years. He says, seldom do husband and wife have the same primary emotional love language. We tend to speak our primary love language and we become confused when our spouse doesn't understand what we're communicating. The message just doesn't get through because we're speaking what to them is a foreign language. So, what are these love languages that Gary Chapman identifies? Well, it's words of affirmation, quality time, thoughtful gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So, words of affirmation, it's saying, I love you, you look great, oh, you were so good when you... It's that kind of thing. Quality time, making time for the other person and setting aside other things to give them your attention. So it might be going for walks together or taking a day off work or a date night, something like that. Thoughtful gifts, it's giving something that the other person values, not what you think is good. Acts of service, well, that can be taking soup and a crusty roll round when someone's ill or doing something that the other person doesn't like doing just so that they don't have to do it. Physical touch could be holding someone's hand, a caress, or giving a Paul Hollywood handshake when they've done something really well, just like he does on Bake Off. And over the next few weeks, I want to explore this more, because this doesn't just relate to marriage or romantic relationships. It applies to parents and children, work colleagues, friends, basically any relationship that we have. You see, child psychologists would say that every child has certain basic emotional needs that must be met if they're to be emotionally stable. And among those needs is the need for love and affection, the need to sense that they belong and that they're wanted. And without that, they'll be emotionally and socially challenged. So Dr. Ross Campbell, a psychiatrist who specialises in the treatment of children and adolescents, used this metaphor. He said this: inside every child there is an emotional tank waiting to be filled with love. And when a child really feels loved, they will develop normally. But when the love tank is empty, the child will misbehave. So the emotional tank for love isn't simply a childhood experience. We all have an emotional tank that needs filling with love through our relationships. That's why we need each other in our lives. And keeping our emotional love tank filled is as important to a relationship as it is to maintaining fuel in a car. When I was younger, I used to delay filling my car until the tank was empty, and it would infuriate Sarah because I often got the timing wrong. And there were several times we just ran out of fuel, and I either had to ring for help or walk a distance to the nearest garage to pick up a spare petrol can with fuel to get us going again. I was once on holiday with my friend Johnny Land in Scotland, and we ran out of petrol at the top of a hill, and we freewheeled down into the petrol station. It was so funny. But most times I wasn't that lucky. Now, trying to run a relationship on an empty tank will cost you. Your relationship stalls or even starts freewheeling backwards, which is why understanding each other's love languages is so important. It can grow friendships, it can improve working relationships, it can rebuild marriages, and it enables a parent-child relationship to thrive. So please tune in over these next 5 weeks as we explore the 5 love languages. And if you're intrigued and you're not sure what your love language is, there are various tests. If you just Google it online, there are tests for singles, for married couples, for kids, that kind of thing. But as a guide, just ask yourself, when did I last really feel loved? And what was happening to make me feel this way? Because that will give you a clue as to what your love language is. Hey, have a great weekend. You stay safe, and I hope to see you next week. Thanks.